Hi there, Vanessa Baker here, coming to you again on a Thursday for some more crafting. I really must come up with a catchy name for Thursday crafting. Um, Starting off this week, just showing you the cards from last week that we made. These were done basically from the kit, using the instructions that come with the kit. Since then I've just added some embellishments. So I've added some of the new um, flat, what are they called? Flat adhesive dots or something. Hold on. Low profile dots. And I've also put inners inside the cards, and that's an extra thing that I like to do. And I've just stamped some butterflies on them to decorate them. You don't have to do that, but it's just an extra thing that I like to do on my cards. And I just used the colours that suited, depending what was on the front. And you'll see in my clear stamp case there that, sorry, just doing this audio is going over my video, catching up. Okay, so in this case is the leftover pieces. So I've pulled out already the pieces for this week's project, and I've still got all of these other bits left over for the rest of the month, where I'm going to be using the kit over and over to try and use up all the pieces in different ways. So yeah, you can see I've still got lots of things left, and we can have some fun with those later. The card that I'm making this time is one that I've seen a few demonstrators making, and I'm calling it a arched trifold card. I don't know if that's if it has a different name, but that's what I'm calling it. And most people are making it with the Everyday Arches dies. However, I don't have those yet, but I do have a retired set called a Garden Meadow. And I think I'll just be showing you shortly the Garden Meadow dies. Oh, I think I'm talking there about the Everyday Arches because they have stamps that follow that arch pattern. But this is the one I used. It's from a retired set called Garden Meadow. So I just happened to have that arch, and I thought that would be perfect for the card design. So I've cut out my 3 arches, and I'm going to decorate them with the pieces from the kit. The first thing I did is I started with the crumb cake base, and that's scored into 3 sections. It was, I think you could probably get 2 out of an A4 piece of cardstock. Mine is 8.5 centimetres for each section, which is roughly, I think, 3.5, was it? No, 3.25 or 3 3/8 of an inch. Then to do the decoration on the crumb cake piece, I've actually used one of the card bases from the kit, one of the pretty and pink ones. And I've cut my 3 pieces from the card base. The third piece I couldn't get out across the card or the other direction because of the size, so I've used 2 pieces together to make up that third panel. But you'll see later that you really don't notice a small join line once the card's all put together. And I think I'm just talking here about the different ways of the text is running. And then on that one in particular, because it was the centre fold of the card, I just wanted to sort of disguise that score line a wee bit. So I have you just put down something soft, and this mat wasn't probably soft enough. I probably needed a stamping mat, and rub it with your bone folder. So I'm trying to sort of take out that creased line, which is a wee bit tricky to do, but it kind of worked. It did fade a wee bit. And then I got glue off that silicone mat onto that piece of card. So then I had to use my glue eraser to get rid of that. So I'm just deciding which way I want the text. As you'll see, most of the pieces will be hidden anyway behind the arches. So I'm now just using some liquid glue to adhere these 3 pieces. As you know, liquid glue is my favourite. Just gives you that bit of wiggle room. So I'm still deciding here which way is the best way to put it. You'll see if you look at the card fronts in the kit that the text goes all different directions. And then with this last piece, you want to put the larger piece on first, because that's going to be your guide. Get the 3 sides even on that one, and then add the smaller piece in. And you just want to butt the line up as close as you can to the other piece, just to sort of hide that as much as possible. So I'm sort of squeezing the 2 pieces together there. So set that piece aside, and then we'll start decorating the arches. So here are the pieces that I plan to use for the front one. And the vellum piece I'm holding is all in one, but I think I'm going to cut it so that I can use the 2 different pieces behind my floral arrangement. So I'll just cut it there at the leaf and then neaten that up. Having trouble picking them up. But then I decided to do my stamping. Oh, I've already gone ahead and done the sentiment. This is a little piece that you get in the kit. And I'm going to stamp a butterfly now on the actual, straight onto the arch piece. And I'm stamping it off first on a scrap piece off camera. Oh no, I brought that on camera. As you'll see, unfortunately that didn't stamp particularly well, so I'm deciding now how I can move forward from that using these pieces. So this is my original plan, is to put that piece at the back like so, and then I start thinking about maybe covering the butterfly with the other piece. But it's kind of not the look I was going for, so I think about that for a while and then decide to instead to leave it as it is, and then later on I'll come back with a different solution. So first of all, I'm sticking down the first vellum piece, and I'm putting the glue sort of behind where the colour is. If you put it on the clear part, then you can see the glue through the vellum. So I'm just trying to hide it behind the coloured pieces. That one's just ever so slightly off at the top of the arch, which is kind of nice. It kind of extends the image. And I'm using dimensionals now for the next piece. I've cut a thin one there for the stem. I use lots of dimensionals. I want things to stay at that height. I don't want, if it gets something heavy on it or gets squashed, I don't want it to be flat against the card base. So I use lots of dimensionals to keep it up at the right height. So at this point I think I'll leave the butterfly as it is. Oh, and I'm trying to use that piece in another way, which that didn't quite work. So then I decide that we'll save that for another project. I just wanted to keep a bit more white space rather than having that sort of bunched in down the bottom there. Here I am still trying. So I really did try all the options and decided to leave it off. I'm putting dimensionals now on the sentiment. So I'll have one on the left hand side and two on the right hand side as it goes over the stalk of the flower. And you'll see there I'm using the back actually of the one that I messed up last week. So that did eventually get used. I love that sentiment. I think it's a lovely thing to say and send a card to somebody who's done something kind for you. And then that's how it's going to go on the card. So moving on now to the next one. So this time I'm going to use the, what did I end up calling it? Like a net. Grid. The grid stamp, that's the word. And again, I'm stamping it off, and this time I'm using crumb cake ink. So I just want a light impression in the background. And then I also decide to put that same stamp down the side. A couple of times, so I'm just stamping it off each time. And here's the elements that I'm going to use for this card. It's got like a tag and a couple of floral pieces. So we'll just attach the tag with the liquid glue. Then I wanted the leaves to go down next. Just putting dots of glue on the back. Once I stuck that, I decided I wanted it a bit higher, so it was a bit more off the top of the tag. So I just moved it up. And the bottom floral arrangement is going on dimensionals. This one I cut in half, and then the top fell off and it stuck to my scissors. But most of that was actually off camera, so just deciding the angle that I'm going to put it on. And attaching that, and that's our middle panel done. Now we're going to move on and do the third panel. And this one we're also using the grid stamp and crumb cake ink stamped off the same. And I stamped that 3 times as well, in a different way. And here's my grouping of pieces for this card. So you can see I'm using quite a few pieces, and I've still got lots left, so it really does go a long way. I just realised the vellum piece, I actually had it round the wrong way. It's a lot brighter when it is curved that way towards the right. However, I had designed the card using it the other way over. So now I'm just having a look to see where I could put it to make it work with the more vibrant side. But I don't quite think it works in that direction. So I'm just sort of playing with the elements and just seeing how I can make it work, since I discovered that I had planned to use it on the wrong side. So what I'm going to do here is attach the sort of the bell-shaped flowers to the sunflower piece and get that on the card, and then make a decision about the vellum piece after that. So I'm going to join these two together. They kind of need to be put together because I've got the leaves at the base of the sort of bluey green piece going under the card, and the flowers going over. So that's why I've done it like that. And here I decide that I'm going to use that piece the way I had intended it originally. So it's just a little bit, the colour is just a little bit less intense, but I prefer the element on that side, and that's how I designed the card. And then I just have a wee bit of trouble getting it to go in there, because the first part, those first two pieces I've put down have already sort of stuck. So I'm just going to trim the end and slide that in. And I just want to tuck that cut edge now under, so I'll just move that in with my snips. And now I'm going to dimensional the butterfly. And I'm using small ones so that I can put lots on. Then I decide that I need to perhaps put the flower on first, because the butterfly is going to cover part of the stem. And I'm trying to decide what height I should put the flower. I think if it's too close to the sunflower, it sort of gets lost. It needs to be a little bit further up, so it's sort of on its own. And then I decide that I'll put the head of the flower on a dimensional, and the stem of the flower I'm going to use glue. And you can, I always talk about the different levels and keeping things on the same level, but you can do something like, mix it up when you've got something like a flower and a stem, and the stem's going to be covered. So it's an exception to my normal rule. And then I'm just deciding the angle for my butterfly, and I like to see the sunflower still. It's part of the beauty of that little card. So now we have the three arches all decorated. So it's time now to attach them to the card. And there's a few things to consider. It's how much of the base pattern you want to see, and also the height of the arch, well, the height of the card overall. So I've got an envelope here, so I'm just measuring to make sure that it's going to fit inside the envelope once the card is made. So that's what I'm judging, the height. And then I've got my 3 panels laid on, and I'm using the middle one here to work out where to put my glue. So I don't want to go above that line, so I'm using the one next to it as a guide. And then I'll use it as a guide again to get that in the right place at the same level of the bottom, and at the even spacing on either side. And then I'll do the same with the next one. So use the one I've already stuck as a guide. And then the same for the last, the first one, the front. Oh, this is where I decide that I'm going to fix my butterfly. So I'm looking at the moment for a little piece of white. Basic white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp the butterfly again with my Pretty in Pink ink. But I find when I stamp it that it's a wee bit too inky. I don't know if you can tell, but the image hasn't really come out very clear. There's sort of big blobs of ink in places. So what you do in that situation is just move some of the ink on your pad down to the other end. So the ink's still there. We're not really wasting it. Just moving it around so that we can get a clearer image. And then I just tap all over that part where I just cleared the ink so that I make sure I still get enough ink on my stamp. And then I'll stamp it again and you'll see the difference. It's a much clearer image than the first one. So now I'm going to fussy cut that butterfly. And as I'm cutting, I keep the scissors in my right hand. I'm right-handed. I keep the scissors there just going forward, like the cutting motion, and then my left hand does all the turning of the paper. So I can keep going forward as I'm turning, and you get nice, radius curves when you do it that way. And you've got lots of control using both hands like that. So this is a great option when you make a boo-boo or something doesn't quite stamp the way you wanted it to. You can just do another one and cut it out and attach it over the top. Very carefully doing the antlers there. So now I'm going to put that on dimensionals. And I just have a wee look before placing it down if I want to actually show that one from underneath as an extra layer. But in the end I decide to put it over the top. Just because I wanted that, like I said before, the white space on the card. Okay, so now I'm ready to attach this one. The same method as the other two. Oh, my glue has started getting a bit gummed up at the top, so I'm just saying that I'm just going to give that a wipe with a tissue. Otherwise it builds up. Okay, so lining that one up as well. And there we go. There's your completed card that fits in the envelope. And it stands up by itself. So it's a really nice display piece. Then on the reverse, you can, of course, put paper right across the back there if you want, if you've got lots to say. But I'm just going to put one more arch. So I'm putting the glue on the back of the arch. And I'm going to, oh, there were some loose bits of paper there at the bottom. I'm going to attach it then, lining it up with the back of the arch on the front of the card. And then you've got a nice space to write. And I decided that the flower would be best stuck with liquid glue rather than a dimensional. And you just want to avoid putting it over the line, because obviously the card's going to fold there. So I've come down onto the crumb cake piece, since that gives you a bit more room to write your message, and we have that space underneath. So that's the back of the card, and there we are back at the front. So now I'm going to put, oh, that's right, I wanted to use the brass butterflies. I thought they really suited the project with all the flowers and the butterflies. Just getting my take your pick tool. And I'm covering, there's a hole in that tag for a piece of string, but I left the little circle in there, so I'm covering that so it won't pop out. And then once I had one on, I was like, oh, well, I have to put another. And then once I had two on, I had to put three, because things go better in threes. So it's just getting the different angles and just getting the placement right. So having it on the end of the tool is very useful, because you can sort of see what it's going to look like before you commit. And then these are the low profile dots, and they come in both gold and petal pink. And I had a bit of a look and didn't know that the petal pink was quite the right colour. And I thought the gold definitely suited the yellow. And then I decided that I would keep it all gold. So I'm going to put gold on all of the other two panels will have the gold. I'm really loving these low profile dots. I think they're quite stunning. They're quite flat, but they're quite sparkly as well. And this is just something extra. These dots don't come with the kit, but I felt that I wanted to add them in just to make it extra special. So I hope that my videos on the Heirloom arrangements kits have got you thinking about this kit. It's I'm really loving using it. I think the best thing I like about it is that it's quick crafting with lots of scope to do your own thing. because as you can see, the elements are already prepared and you just have to lay them out how you want them on your project. So it's makes things, quite quick and easy. And the kit is just in New Zealand, it's $49, and that gives you the 8 cards and envelopes and all the pre-printed die-cut pieces. So I've just added the low-profile dots to that, which were about, I think they were about $16, something like that. But you may have something already in your stash that you can use for that purpose. And I'm just loving making these really cute little projects. So I'll be back live again next week after my trip, and I'm bringing you another project with this same kit. So maybe you will have bought yours by then and you can craft along with me, which would be fantastic. So I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again next Thursday at 1:30.